So, what is SolidWorks? Well, this may seem like an obvious question. It's a CAD tool, right? Besides being a very user-friendly CAD tool, I'd like to tell you a little more about how it behaves before jumping right in. SolidWorks is a parametric, feature-based system that allows you to create 3D parts, assemblies, and 2D drawings. A parametric modeler behaves differently than other more primitive CAD tools that are object-driven. What I mean is, in a parametric modeler, everything is controlled by either parameters, dimensions, or relationships. For example, if you want to move the position of a hole that's in a block, in a parametric system, you would change the dimension or relation that controls its position. The parameters and relationships you set up allow you to have control as a designer over something called design intent. The term design intent basically describes the way your design will behave depending on the way you design it. By using parameters and relationships, this gives you ultimate control over the model. Here, I have a block with a hole in the center. You can see the dimensions place the hole at the center of the block. But what if the size of the block changes? Well, you can see here that the hole is no longer centered, since the position of the hole is defined by these two dimensions here. But what if I want to center this hole so that no matter what size the rectangle is, the circle will always be centered? In a parametric modeler, it's also possible to use relationships. Instead of using dimensions to locate the hole, I can use a line from corner to corner. And set the center of the hole to be the midpoint of the line. Now the midpoint relation is controlling the position of the hole, rather than a dimension. So no matter what the size of the rectangle, the circle will always be centered. This is just one example of the countless ways to capture your design intent when modeling in 3D. We'll talk much more about design intent and these geometric relationships throughout the course. You can see how modeling in a parametric environment can be very powerful. The other huge advantage of this type of system is that you also get associativity between your parts, assemblies, and drawings. Meaning, if you make a change to the design of a part, the change will take effect in any assemblies that it's a part of. And its 2D drawing will update automatically as well. You can also make the same design change from the 2D drawing and the part will update, as well as the assembly. This associative behavior saves you lots of time when you make design changes, so that you only have to make the change once, and all associated items will automatically update appropriately. Before we get started learning the fundamentals of creating parts, assemblies, and drawings, I'd like to take a few minutes to introduce some important areas of the SolidWorks interface that you will be interacting with during the remainder of this course. I'll begin by pressing the New icon. A window will appear, asking whether you would like to create a part, assembly, or drawing. These are the three main types of files you'll be working with in SolidWorks. If this window doesn't look like the one displayed on your screen, notice the Advanced button here at the bottom. The Advanced section gives you access to additional templates, and is where you can access templates that you can customize. For this course, I'll be using the Novice window. I'll select Part, and when I click OK, SolidWorks opens a blank part document. On the right is the Graphics area, the working space where you graphically interact with your parts, assemblies, or drawings. This area on the left is called the Feature Manager Design Tree. The feature tree will display commands and information for parts, assemblies, or drawings, and also for different functions in each. Basically, This tree is a method to interact with the items, such as sketches and features displayed in the graphics area. Don't worry about exactly what this means right now. We will go into much greater detail of how to use both of these areas throughout the course. Next, focus your attention to this row of icons above the graphics area. These icons constitute the Command Manager. The Command Manager is simply an ingenious way of organizing the commands that are required to operate SolidWorks without taking up too much screen space. Notice the tabs at the bottom of the Command Manager. Each tab of the Command Manager contains tools specific for different functions in SolidWorks. The Command Manager will automatically change to display a different set of tools depending on whether you are creating a part, assembly, or a drawing. Or you can simply click the tabs at the bottom to bring up a particular set of commands. I can click on the Sketch tab to see the sketch tools, and on the Features tab to see the feature tools. Don't worry too much about what feature tools and sketch tools are for right now. We'll cover them in detail later in the course. Now, not all of the tools in SolidWorks are displayed in the Command Manager. This is by design, to keep the interface simple and user-friendly. You can find all of the commands, functions, and features that SolidWorks has to offer in the drop-down menus. As with most Windows-based applications, the drop-down menus are located at the top of the interface. To reveal them, just hover over the SolidWorks logo in the upper left or press the Alt key. If I press the pushpin icon, the drop-down menus will stay pinned on the screen even when I move the cursor away. In the upper right-hand corner of the SolidWorks interface is the search box, which you can use to find your SolidWorks files or search the help file, community forums, or knowledge base. The search window also allows you to find and run a command supply by typing the name here. So if you're having trouble finding a particular feature or command in the drop-down menus, you can simply search for it here under Commands and access it right away. Here's another quick tip for launching commands. If you press the S key, a shortcut menu will appear, and you can launch the command from here. When you press the S key, it also automatically activates the command search in the search bar, so you can type in a command and find it that way too. Also, notice the Show Me icon here next to the command. When I click this icon, SolidWorks will point out the command in the user interface with a big red arrow and move the cursor to hover over the command's icon. If the command does not already appear on a toolbar, you can add it simply by dragging and dropping the command from the results list to the toolbar. One last thing I'd like to show you in this lesson are a couple of SolidWorks options you should be aware of. To access SolidWorks options, I can simply press the Options icon. SolidWorks options break down into two categories. System options control all of the global settings in SolidWorks. The document properties, on the other hand, only affect the part, assembly, or drawing you're working with. Here, I can change the drafting standards and units for the part. I'll hit OK to accept the changes. When I return to the part, notice in the bottom right-hand corner of the interface, you can see the unit system I just set for the part. I can click the arrow to toggle between the different default unit systems, or I can click Edit Document Units to bring up the same unit options window that we just saw a moment ago. When you begin creating sketches, parts, and assemblies in SolidWorks, it is necessary to rotate, pan, and zoom around the graphics area. First, let me show you how to rotate the model. I'll simply press and hold the middle mouse button and drag the pointer around the screen. Notice the model reacting to each direction I move. Many new users can have trouble getting the desired result from rotating. They might start using circular motions with the mouse until eventually it ends up in the right orientation. My advice is to simply limit your rotate command to vertical and horizontal directions. Here's what I mean. Watch as I move the mouse in only the up and down directions at one time. Then, from here I can switch to rotating the model in the left and right directions. This way, I know exactly which way the model will rotate. Next, let me show you how to pan the model around the screen. To do this, press and hold the Control key and then the middle mouse button. From here, you can drag the model around the graphics area. To zoom, simply use the mouse wheel to zoom in and out. One thing about zooming: when you roll the mouse button backwards to zoom in, SolidWorks zooms in on the position of the mouse cursor. New users sometimes have a hard time with this and end up zooming the part outside of the graphics area. Let me show you what I mean. Say I want to zoom in on this corner of the part. If I leave my mouse in this spot and keep zooming in, notice the part eventually leaves the graphics area. This is because the mouse is positioned over the white background immediately after I start zooming in, which means I'll be zooming in on that spot in the background and not the model. If I want to keep this from happening, I must relocate the cursor to the spot I want to zoom to every few mouse wheel clicks while zooming in. Another tool I'd like to mention is Zoom to Fit, which can be helpful if you somehow lose the part in the graphics area. There are two ways to easily access it. First, the F key on your keyboard is a predefined hotkey for Zoom to Fit. This is a hotkey that most veteran SolidWorks users remember, but since most of your other view manipulation tools are done with the mouse, you can also zoom to fit by double-clicking the middle mouse button, and the part will return zoomed to the middle of the screen. If your mouse has a scroll wheel, you can double-click it for Zoom to Fit to take effect. There are quite a few more view manipulation options available in SolidWorks, and I don't want to overwhelm you by trying to show you all of them right now, but there is one final option I'd like to show you. SolidWorks also has many standard views that you can quickly access to look at your model from a certain predefined orientation. There are several ways to access these views, but one easy way for a new user to do so is by pressing the spacebar.